But first, I'd like to ask for, and I don't often do this, but I'd like to ask for a big round of applause for our first speaker, the founder of our movement, the man with whom none of us would be here, Paul Kurtz.
Question for every member of the audience. Have you made your contribution yet to this organization? Because you need to. You know, money is the root of all evil, yes, but no money is worse. And the growth of this movement since 1990, as Barry Cosman of Attitudes in the Country pointed out, I think we have had a modest effect in that by showing that unbelievers could be good citizens, contribute to the world, and lead dignified lives, and that's very, very important. So the Center for Inquiry can continue this great educational work. Now, there have been stories in the Los Angeles Times, and many people have asked me about that, and the New York Times in the last few days. Here's one in the Los Angeles Times. Here's my great hero, in a very modest way for myself, is Socrates. He was a gadfly. So let me play the role of the gadfly. The story in the Los Angeles Times says there's been a rift within the Center for Inquiry. That rift cracked open recently when Paul Kurtz, a founder of the Secular Humanist movement in America, was ousted as chairman of the Center for Inquiry, a organization of the Council for Secular Humanism. One factor leading to this ouster was the perception that Kurtz was on the, and this is quoting Thomas Flynn, was on the mellowing side of the movement. The tension was evident here at the Biltmore, and two reporters, one from the New York Times and one from the Los Angeles Times, are covering this convention. The second quote from the New York Times said, "The Center's donations have fallen since Mr. Kurtz's departure, which prompted warring blog posts between his defenders and Mr. Lindsay's. And this did not improve on Wednesday. Mr. Kurtz, because the Center's donation had declined, but on Wednesday, Mr. Kurtz stopped by the Center in Amherst, where he still keeps an office. He found that the locks had been changed. Mr. Lindsay told the reporter that Mr. Kurtz did not need the new key because he has no connection with the Center." Well, I beg to differ. I have an emotional and personal and long-standing connection to the Center, and so I think that it's very, very important that each and every one of you contribute. We're a very modest movement. We provide a civilized and sophisticated response to the religiosity in the United States. And this movement can only continue to grow if you contribute. So if you're not contributing, my question to each and every one of you is contribute something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kurtz, for your generous encouragement and contributions to this organization. It's deeply appreciated. I do want to mention a couple of things that Paul brought up. In between his encouragement of donations to this organization, he referred to articles in the New York Times and the Los Angeles Times. I have not had an opportunity to look at the LA Times article, so I won't comment on that. indicated that in one of the articles that he was ousted as chair. I think he alluded to the fact that there were some differences of opinion that may have led to his ouster, maybe philosophical differences. Actually, his ouster as chair, which occurred at a June 2009 board meeting, resulted from essentially an ultimatum that Paul Kurtz presented to the board, which was that either the structure of the office of CEO had to be refashioned in such a way that significant responsibilities would be taken away from the CEO, or he no longer wanted to remain as chair. Given that choice, the choice that Paul Kurtz presented, the board decided that, fine, he will no longer remain as chair. With respect to this whole key issue, which I know has gotten quite a bit of play, the situation is this. Paul Kurtz, in mid-May of this year, in something that was really quite a surprise to the organization, surprise to me, surprise to all the members of the board, decided on his own to resign from all his positions with all the organizations, that is, the family of organizations that's associated with the Center for Inquiry. That's the Counsel of Secular Humanism, the Center for Inquiry, the Clinic for Skeptical Inquiry. He resigned from his position as editor-in-chief. In fact, he told Tom Flynn he didn't want anything more to do with the magazine. So, as a factual matter, as of that point in time, indeed, he had no connection with the organization because he had renounced the organization. And as everyone knows, Paul mentioned this in his opening address, he went on to found another organization, which of course it's his right to do. Despite the fact that he has no ongoing connection with the center, we have allowed him to use his former office at the center. He is the only guest at the center that has a reserved parking spot. And as far as I'm concerned, he can continue to use that reserved parking spot. He can continue to use his former office. I can tell you right now, I will never use that office, have no desire to use that office. We did change the exterior locks on the building for a number of reasons. We've had some security problems at guest houses nearby. Barry Carr and I also talked about the fact that the exterior locks had not been changed, I believe, ever. And we have had employee turnover, not just in recent years, but actually going back a number of years. There's been probably, I think, in Paul's last few years, there were 45 employees that left between 2005 and mid-2008. And since then, we've probably had another 20 employees leave. So this is a matter of prudence. It made sense to change the exterior locks. Then the decision had to be made, well, do we give Paul Kurtz a new key? We decided not to give him a new key. Why? Well, Paul can visit our building anytime there's any member of staff present. He has told me that he would like to continue to visit our building. Happy to have him. We recognize Paul Kurtz as the founder of the Counsel for Secular Humanism, the founder of the Center for Inquiry, the founder of the CSI. I have never said anything that would indicate that we don't have a great deal of debt to Paul Kurtz for everything he's done for this movement. Indeed, we do. We would not be here without Paul Kurtz, and we all recognize that. And if he wants to visit staff at the center, he's welcome to visit staff at the center. The only thing not having a key to the exterior locks does not allow him to do is to be in the building by himself after hours. And if he wants to visit staff at the center, that wouldn't seem to impede him in any way from doing that. As I said, he can come to the center. We're open during business hours, and he's more than welcome to continue to visit us and to converse with our staff about the greater good that we can do and the mission of humanism and how we can promote humanism and skepticism. And I hope that's what our future conversations will concentrate on, because one thing that I think that does hurt our movement, I think Barry Cosman kind of alluded to this when he talked about a circular firing squad. We have so many different fractures and so many divisions in the movement, so much infighting, and something's been going on for years, it's not a recent development, that we actually, I hate to say this, we tend to resemble religious sects. And, it's simply disgusting, and we need to get beyond that. We need to get beyond personalities and work together for what we all believe in. Thank you.
My name is Tony Renfeld, and I open the Office of Public Policy for the Center for Inquiry, and I was let go on June 1st due to a lack of fundraising by the current CEO. I'd like to say two things. One is that Paul Kurtz, to imply that he started, or to flat out say he started a competing organization is simply false. Paul wrote the Neo-Humanist Statement of Principles and Values a number of months ago. He tried to get it published in Free Inquiry magazine, where he has been the editor-in-chief since he founded it. He was censured. He asked to have it put on the website. He was censured. Finally, Ron did a horrible piece about the Neo-Humanist Statement when Paul has his own personal website, paulkurtz.net. So we put the Millennium Statement on Paul's personal website. And the most that Ron would do was introduce the Neo-Humanist Statement in his blog in an attack and then put a link to Paul's personal website. Paul has been censored. They allowed him to keep the title of editor-in-chief and essentially removed all authority that he had. It was the same thing with the chair. Once Ron was appointed the CEO, Paul Kurtz does not visit the Center for Inquiry. He does visit it to visit with staff, many of whom he has a wonderful relationship with to this day. However, he goes there primarily to do research for his books. He published 2 books last year. He has 2 books coming out this year. We have extensive libraries, a collection due to Paul Kurtz and his hard work, and he uses those libraries to do his work and to do his research. He does not necessarily do that during normal business hours. I really don't understand, Ron and the rest of you, what you think Paul will do there after hours. I have not a clue if you think he's going to burn the building down. I don't know if you have sensitive documents. I do know you have locks on all of your offices, and you can lock those if you're concerned about it. But I really do want to set the record straight. Paul Kurtz was driven out of this organization.
I'd like to recognize the person who was second in line and who has been waiting very patiently.
Can I just respond briefly, please? I will be very brief because I don't think this really merits much of a response. I'll just mention a couple of things. First of all, the idea, I've seen it now in several blogs. There was a blog, I think, that talked about Paul Kurtz being expelled. Paul Kurtz voluntarily resigned all his positions. That is a fact. If you doubt that fact, then you should ask Paul Kurtz what it was that actually forced him out. Who forced him out? Who applied the pressure? What pressure was applied? I don't think you're going to get any sort of answer that would amount to anything that would amount to coercion or duress. This was a voluntary decision made by Paul for reasons best known to him. I think in his resignation statement he felt that he said, I am a director, but I don't think the other directors are listening to me. That's fine. I mean, that's his decision. But the idea that someone applied pressure, I have seen nothing to indicate what type of pressure that is. And again, I would ask people, we are known to use our critical reasoning. If we're going to use critical reasoning, we should ask for supporting facts. And please, if we're going to have an orderly session, I would ask you to respect the rules. I have the floor right now. Secondly, the idea that Paul Kurtz has been censored is frankly ridiculous. If you look at all the blogs that have been put up, that Paul Kurtz put up over the past couple of years, he was free to put up those blogs. No one in management ever looked at them. We didn't censor a word of them.